I hope na hindi na umulan para hindi mawalan ng signal. Okay, the recording is already starting. Good evening, everyone. So for this evening, we're going to discuss two chapters for the subject, accounting information system. So, so first is chapter 2, introduction to transaction processing. In this chapter, the objectives to be discussed are the broad objective of transaction cycles, the types of transaction processed by each of the three transaction cycles, the basic accounting records in the transaction processing system, and the traditional accounting records and their magnetic equivalents, meaning yung manual at saka yung with accounting in technology na, and then documentation techniques, and the batch and real-time processing and the impact of these technologies on transaction processing. So ito po yung ating i-discuss for this chapter. This is in preparation for the next chapters about accounting information system on revenue, um, disbursement or expenses, asset management. We have uh, or expense management. We have yung sa real or fixed asset. We have yung paano yung sa payroll at saka yung sa ating manufacturing. So ito kung ano yung mga transaction cycles na mayroon dito, and also kung ano yung mga mababanggit natin dito is also makikita nyo dun sa mga chapters na yon. Yan. So, a financial transaction, as I have discussed on chapter 1, is an economic event that affects the asset and equities of the firm. There are transactions po kasi that was introduced in chapter 1 that are non-financial. Pag sinabi natin financial, it affects your balance sheet or your assets and equity, and is reflected in its accounts and is measured in monetary terms. So meaning these transactions are being recorded in the books. You collect the data, you process the data in the system or in a manual practice, and it is recorded in the books. Okay? Similar types of transaction are grouped together into three transaction cycles. So ito po yung sinasabing transaction cycle: the expenditure cycle, the conversion cycle, and the revenue cycle. So how are these cycles interrelated with each other? So ito po yung diagram niyan. Tingnan nyo yung mga nakabox sa blue. These are your transaction cycles: expenditure cycle, conversion cycle, and revenue cycle, correct? So under expenditure cycle, there could be accounts of purchasing and accounts payable, cash disbursement, payroll, fixed asset. So etong expenditure cycle mo, okay, gagawin natin na yung relationship nila. So, um, uh, uh, ang product ng expenditure cycle are your labor cost, material cost, and physical plant, meaning your mga fixed asset mo. These are paid by cash. Pwede ring on account, pero eventually will be paid by cash. Tama? Kasi hindi naman po ma'am lahat on cash. Correct. Pero eventually they will be paid by cash. So, lahat ng babayaran under expenditure cycle are your labor, materials, and physical plant or your fixed asset. These are the things that you are going to use in your conversion cycle. So, in this conversion cycle, there is the production, planning, and control cost accounting. So, sa conversion cycle, dito mo i-convert si alin? Yung lahat ng nagastos mo into finished goods. Ito po yan. And after the conversion cycle, it will now flow to your revenue cycle. Ma'am, bakit? Finished goods now will become your inventory. And inventory will be sold to your customers. So there will be sales order processing from customers and cash receipts from customer for their payment of their receivables. Okay? So your finished goods will be transferred to your customer or sold to your customer, and customer will pay you in cash. So there will be cash receipts. Ma'am, ano, bank transfer. So general lang natin dito dinidescribe. So cash receipts. So these cash receipts are the one that you use, ito po, that you use in your expenditure cycle. So the cycle just go and go and go. So ito po yung relationship ng tatlong transaction cycles. Next natin, each cycle has two subsystem. First, dun muna tayo sa expenditure. The first cycle is the two subsystem is the physical component. Yung physical component is the acquisition of goods or fixed asset or asset. And the financial component is the cash disbursement to supplier or your accounts payable. For the conversion cycle naman, the two subsystems are the production system, meaning yung conversion mismo, planning, scheduling, control of physical product through the manufacturing process. So basically, it is your production. Yung kung ano yung ginagawa sa production, how is production or being managed. So syempre, nandiyan na rin yung planning, scheduling, kailan mo ibibigay yung raw materials, kailan kailangan ng tao, ano yung ilang number of tao ang kailangan gumawa ng dun sa manufacturing. So nandiyan yan sa production system. And next subsystem is what we call the cost accounting system. Dito naman, yung lahat ng ginagastos mo sa production system ay nire-record sa cost accounting system. It monitors the flow of cost information related to production. And the last cycle is what we call the revenue cycle. The two subsystems are physical component and the financial component. So sa physical component is the sales and ordering processing and cash receipts. So sa sales ordering processing, ito yung gagaling sa customers mo, ibibigay kay sales or kay marketing or yung sa sales department mo, and they will process the sales order. And of course, after the sales order, there will be billing. After the billing, there will be a financial component which is the cash receipts. So, yan po yung mga subsystems sa mga cycles na yon. Okay? So, pag-usapan naman natin yung records at saka yung control when it comes to manual at saka yung with IT related system or accounting system. So, manual system tayo of accounting or yung accounting records for manual system. First is the source documents, processing product documents, and the turnaround documents. Ma'am, ano itong mga documents na to? So, i-relate natin sila bawat isa. Nakalagay ba dito? Ay, wala. Wait lang ha. Tingnan ko lang ha. Ay, hindi po. Hindi po nailagay dito. Okay. So, explain na lang natin. Source documents. Kunyari, sales order. Ang sales order galing yan sa client, correct? So, it is used to capture and formalize transaction data needed for the transaction processing. From the sales order, it will now become it will now become a product document. What is the product document after processing the sales order? Ma'am, pwede pong magkaroon ng our order requisition. Or ma'am, pwede pong since available na po ma'am yung product, mag-billing na po kami. So, yung result of the transaction processing of your sales order is the billing. Yung billing is what we call product documents because it is the result of the processing of data. Ma'am, ano naman yung turnaround documents? Ito, di ba yung product documents, yung billing? Tama? You process the sales order and the end product is, kunyari, billing. Si billing will now become a turnover documents kasi siya ay product document of one system, meaning yung sales system that becomes a source document for another system. Kunyari naman sa recording. Okay? Financial recording system. nire-record na sa libro. Siyempre, ang titingnan mo para makapag-record ka ng sales ay billing or sales order, correct? Ay sir, sales order. Not sales order, yung mismong billing, magre-record ka. Magkano ang i-charge mo sa kanya or gagawin mong sales revenue. Galing yun dun sa billing. Yung dating product document, which is the billing, is now a turnaround document because it is the source document of another system. Nakukuha po ba yon? Nakukuha yung yung relationship nung bawat isa. What I'm trying to say is that a product document can be a source document. Ganun po ba? Source document? Yes, ng another system. Kasi if it is the same system, it will be always a product document. Pero kung another system, it is the source document of that another system. So, nagiging source document ang isang product document. So, yan po yung accounting records o yung klase ng documents under manual system. So what are the records naman? Accounting records under manual system. We have the journal, syempre the general journals, special journals, such as your cash receipts, check disbursement, yan, yung mga special journals yan. Yung general journal naman, yung mga non-recurring, infrequent, and dissimilar transactions, such as your amortization of loan. Another is amortization of your prepayments and depreciation. Your recording of depreciation expense, amortization of of uh, of intangible assets. So, nandun yun sa general journal. Next natin are the ledgers. So, we have the subsidiary ledger, the general ledger and subsidiary ledger. Sa general, it shows the activity of each account. So, kunyari, ang account niya ay cash and cash equivalent. Cash and cash equivalent, ano yung na-debit doon, ano na credit, debit, credit, debit, credit. General ledger yon. Subsidiary ledger shows activity by detail for each account type. For example, cash and cash equivalent. Ano-ano ang nakapaloob sa cash and cash equivalent? Ma'am, ang cash and cash equivalent po ng company is 1 million. 500 of that is cash on hand. 200 of that is treasury bills. And then another 300 for cash in bank. So that is what we call subsidiary ledger of a general ledger account. See? Magkaiba po yun. Sa general ledger, nakikita mo yung transaction na nangyayari. Kailan na debit, kailan na credit, debit, credit. Sa subsidiary ledger, hindi. It only shows the details of your GL. Kunyari, ma'am, magbigay ka pa ng ibang example ng GL and SL. Accounts receivable. Sa tindahan ng nanay mo, para maano mo, sa tindahan ng nanay mo, meron siyang, kunyari, high-tech. Merong accounts, may accounting siya. May accounts receivable. Kunyari, ikaw yung accountant ng nanay mo. So, meron kong account na accounts receivable. So, alam mo kung kailan mo dinidebit. Dinidebit mo sa tuwing may nangungutang sa tindahan. Debit accounts receivable, credit sales. Tama? So, ganun ang nangyayari. Yun yung GL. Alam mo kung kailan mo dinebit si accounts receivable, kailan kinedit, kailan nabayaran, kailan dinebit, kailan kinedit. Pero si subsidiary ledger, ito yung listahan ng nanay mo ng mga taong may utang sa kanya at magkano ang utang. Ito si Pedra, si Pedro, si Tekla, kung sino-sino man. Ang utang niya ay 10 pesos, 20 pesos, 10,000, 1,000. Yun yung tinatawag nating subsidiary ledger. Okay? Next natin is the flow of economic events into general ledger. Paano ba napupunta sa GL yung isang transaction? So, kunyari dito, ang pinag-uusapan natin lang dito, marami pa pong klase ng transaction na napupunta sa GL. Kasi tatandaan mo, all financial transactions should be recorded in your general ledger. So there are a lot of events or transactions that can be that can flow to the general ledger. That will be discussed throughout this sem. So from customer, ito example lang, from customer's order, ang source document nun, ito po, is your sales order. Si sales order ay magkakaroon ng journal entry. This is the process, magkakaroon ng journal entry. Saan po? Anong libro? Sa sales journal. Now, yung sales order, it will be posted to your subsidiary ledger, yung accounts receivable. Bakit? Kasi ito yung listahan ng mga tao. Okay? Ilalagay mo dun sa mga listahan ng tao yung mga in-order nila. Pero yung sales order mo will be recorded, okay? Will be journalized in your sales journal. From the sales journal, it will be posted to your general ledger. Kasi dito sa sales journal, naka-debit dyan, debit, accounts receivable, credit, sales. Ito po yung sales journal. Okay? So, it will be now be posted sa general ledger mo. Kailan na debit? Ay, January 1. Ay, March 1. So, nandito po yun sa general ledger. Ganun po kung paano pumapasok. From the sales order papuntang general ledger or from the source document to your GL account. Now, what is the essence of your SL and your GL? SL should be reconciled with your GL, meaning meron tayong GL-SL reconciliation. Parang sa PPE, may general ledger account ka, kunyari ang amount ng PPE mo ng kunyari vehicles, motor vehicles, ang amount ng motor vehicles mo is 3,500. Pag tiningnan niyo subsidiary ledger niya at inisa-isa yung mga motor vehicles plus less their depreciation, dapat 3.5 million din yun. So periodically reconciled. So this is how you flow economic events into general ledger. Ito na naman po, pagdating naman sa computer-based system. Yung kanina, yun yung tinatawag nating manual. Ito computer-based. So first, okay? So we have here 4 steps, okay, of how accounting records flow in a computer-based system. Step number 1, you compare AR balance in the balance sheet with the master file AR control account balance. Nasa balance sheet, ito po, yan. Ibig sabihin yung nasa FS mo, ito pabalik po ito ha. This is how you you figure out kung paano napupunta sa FS. So papabalikin natin. So from your FS, merong account balance doon, magkano yung AR. Si AR sa FS, i-check mo ngayon siya sa master file mo. Ma'am, anong master file na una? First is your GL account. Anong GL account? Siyempre AR. Titingnan mo doon sa GL mo. Parehas ba sila ng amount? Yes. Step number 2, you reconcile the AR control figure with the AR subsidiary account total. So pupunta ka na naman to another master file. Okay? To another master file, yung tinatawag nating AR subsidiary. So in this time, you trace this transaction in your sales journal. So titingnan mo ngayon sa sales journal mo, yung nasa AR mo at nasa GL mo, dapat equal yan. So magkakaroon ng reconciliation. Mali. Magkakaroon ng reconciliation mo, yung AR mo from your sales journal. Kasi kinumpare mo na yung GL to SL eh. Ngayon, nakita mo, equal naman. Ngayon, titingnan mo, saan ba nanggaling yung mga pinost ko, okay, yung mga postings ko sa subsidiary ledger from your journal or yung sales journal. From that, from your sales journal entries, you identify source document. Ano ba ang source document na inilagay mo sa sales journal? Siyempre, sales order na galing kay customer. So, in a computer-based system, ganito po kasi siya pumapasok. O, ganito. Ito po yung flow ng documents for you to trace. Pero, how is it entered into the system? From the sales order, meron kang keying or ito yung tinatawag natin yung pag-process ng pag-collect ng data ng sales order mo. So, meron kang transaction file in your system ng mga sales order. Ngayon, ilalagay mo siya doon sa program mo. Ito yung tinatawag nating ang keying. From that program, ipaprocess yung data. It will now go to master files of your GL. Automatic yon. It will go to your GL, to your SL, and to your journal. Ito, meron kang nakikita ditong error file. In case that sa sales order na na-input sa system ay may error, meaning merong mga tagging na hindi correct. Kunyari, may nagkulang na i-update o magkakaroon ng error. At ang mga error na yon, ito minsan yung mga nadi-disapprove ng system. Itong mga error file na to ay bumabalik po yan dun sa user. Magkakaroon ng mai-inform yung user na merong error dun sa file na na-input niya sa system. So, if kunyari makorect na, since na-process na, so pupunta na po yun sa different master file. So, sa General Ledger, sa AR Subsidiary, sa Journal, sa credit file, and your sales, or itong sales order, iyan yung pinanggalingan. Okay? Ito palang credit, sorry. Itong credit file, reference file yan. Anong ibig sabihin po ng reference file? Kasi 'di ba meron kang sales galing sa mga clients. Ngayon ipa-process ni program or kung ano ngang system 'yon. Si system, ang titingnan niya, yun bang sales order na 'yon eh meron na tayong file. So yun yung tinatawag nating reference file. Kung wala, i-update, magkakaroon ng processing, magkakaroon uli yang madadagdagan or ma-update yung credit file natin. So kaya po na minsan or kunyari naman, same client siya. Ngayon merong nagkaroon ng problema, hindi ma-detect ng system. Anong ibig sabihin? Mapupunta yun dun sa error file and then it will now be returned to the user para sa correction. So yan po yung para sa computer-based system. So kung titingnan mo, hindi na manually gino-journalize, tapos ipopost sa AR, tapos ipopost sa GL para maging FS. Hindi po. Ito, isang keying lang. Sa tingnan mo, isang beses ka lang nag-input sa system, madami nang napuntahan. So yan po yung accounting records in computer-based. So ano naman po yung audit trail? Ito po yun, audit trail. Yan. Si audit trail. Accountants should be able to trace in both direction such as yung from source documents to FS and FS to source documents. Katulad nung ginawa natin, pabalik. Okay? Pwede ring magsimula ka sa sales order katulad ng manual. Papunta sa journal, papunta sa AR, papunta sa GL, papunta sa AR, papunta sa SL, papunta sa GL, papunta sa FS. Katulad po nito. From your source documents, it could be traced in your journal or sales journal. And then, from your journal, it will be posted in your GL. And GL should be equal to your FS. Pabalik tayo. If ganito ang gagawin mong audit, from your financial statements, you confirm it or cross-referred it to your GL. It should be equal. And all entries in the GL must be recorded in the journal or the sales journal. And all recording or all journal entries should be based from source documents. Sampling and confirmation are the two common techniques in this to check audit trail. Yan. Sampling and confirmation po. So this is the example of tracing an audit trail. Kunyari, ang i-verify daw po natin is accounts receivable. So, accounts receivable control account, yung GL, kunyari ang nakalagay 1 million sa GL. Ngayon, titingnan mo ngayon si SL. Ang amount ng SL, 1 million din. Okay. 1 million. Ngayon, titingnan mo ngayon si SL. Saan ba nanggaling yon? Sabi dyan, sum of all customers receivable. Ano ba ang mga transaction ng customers receivable? Siyempre, pag-record ng sales, galing sa sales order, shipping notice. Anong ibig sabihin? At sasabihin sa iyo ni sales department na i-ano ko na delivered ko na. So ngayon, pwede mo nang i-record yan as receivable. So yun po, pinanggalingan niya, sales. Yun yung idinedebit mo. Ano pang ibang transaction under customers receivable? Siyempre, yung pagbabayad ng receivable ni customer. So, saan manggagaling yun? From your cash receipts journal. Ano ba ma'am ang makikita mo sa cash receipts journal? Di yung lahat ng payment. So, saan ko po ma'am iti-trace? Saan ko po iti-trace yung mga payment sa akin? Di sa lahat ng deposit slip. Deposit slip po ba ng company? Hindi. Deposit slip ng client or ng customer. Or, pwedeng remittance advice if it is a bank-to-bank transaction, meaning from one bank account to your account or to the company's account. So, remittance advice yung pwedeng ibigay sa'yo. So, yan po yung tinatawag nating pag-trace ng audit trail sa isang account. Example lang po ito. Next natin, tapos na tayo sa manual, next natin is the computer-based system. Ang audit trail daw under computer-based is less observable because the data entry in the computer programs are the physical trail. Kasi pagkapasok mo pa lang at mismong program na ang nagpa-process, data processing, hindi na po ikaw. And ang magiging niyan, magkakaroon agad ng product documents. Okay? Product documents, hindi na need ng ano bang tawag doon? Yung kaninang tawag natin ay turnaround documents. Kasi nasa system na mismo 'yon. Hindi na need ng turnaround documents kasi napaprocess na agad ng system. Kaya hindi mo minsan ma-double check paano ba napupunta talaga? Kaya nga minsan nagkakaroon ng company ng ng IT audit. Pinapacheck kung talaga bang napaprocess ng ayos yung data na ipinapasok mo sa system. Kapag kapasok mo ba ng mga details ng customers mo nung nandoon sa sales order, ano ba ang mangyayari? Mai-inform na agad ba ang ating production? May inform na ba agad ang ating finance department? Will it be recorded already? So, yun po yung i-check sa IT audit. Okay? The data are stored in magnetic files. Hindi na po need na magkaroon ng compilation of documents because soft copies na po to. Tama? Magnetic files ang tawag. So, ma'am, ano po yung mga magnetic files or computer files? So, una natin dyan is the master file, which generally contains account data such as your GL and SL file. The transaction file are temporary file containing transactions since the last update. Reference file contains relatively constant information used in processing. Ito po yung pinagko-cross-referan ng system. Dito po nagbe-based ang system. Next is the archive file. Contains past transactions for reference purposes. Meaning, tapos na itong mga to. Ibig sabihin, for completed transactions na po to, pero in-archive na po. And yan po yung mga files na meron tayo sa ating computer-based system. So titingnan mo, wala na pala nung mga dapat na maraming papel. Syempre, kasi nakastore na po yun, lahat yan into magnetic files. So how do we document transactions? So first, under computer-based, it is necessary for many reasons. Kasi mahirap nga katulad niya ng sinasabi natin sa audit trail, less observable ang audit trail when it comes to computer-based system. So, documentation is needed. So, paano natin mado-document? So, ito yung mga techniques. Una natin is the entity relationship diagram. data flow diagram, we have the document flow charts. Iba pa po yung system flow charts and program flow charts. Okay? Isa-isahin natin yan. So, entity relationship diagram. So, dito is a documentation technique to represent the relationship between entities in a system. Yung REA, which stands for resources, events, and agents model version of entity relationship diagram is widely used in AIS because it interrelates resources from the events or yung mismong process and who processed it o yung tinatawag nating agents, yung inventory control clerk, a vendor, production worker, or basically who processed yung data processing or yung mismong events. So, merong interrelationship po yan or yung REA model version of ERD. Okay? So, cardinalities, minsan kasi naano po natin to, nakikita po or pwedeng mabanggit dun sa mga discussion. Sabi niyo, ano po ba yung cardinalities? Hindi nabanggit to ni ma'am. Yung tinatawag natin cardinalities, it represents numerical mapping between entities. Ibig sabihin, yung relationship po between entities. Ano po ba ma'am yung sinasabi nating entities dito? Or yung tama. Ano yung sinasabi nating entities? It could be resources, it could be events, it could be agents. Okay? Ulitin ko, entities could be your resources, events, or agents. So, yan po yun. Pwede daw po ang relationship is one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. And your cardinalities, meaning your ERD, it may reflect your normal business rules as well as organizational policy. Tingnan natin. Ito, minsan medyo maano kayo. Pwede daw, ang isang salesperson is assigned of one car. So, ang tawag dito, ang cardinalities niya is 1-to-1. Or, ang isang customer could place many order. So the cardinalities here is one-to-many. Next, there are many vendors could supply inventory or a lot of inventory or various inventory to the company. Meaning you could have different suppliers or vendors to supply your inventory. So the cardinalities here is many to many. Ito kasi, dito pa lang, makikita mo na yung rule ng company. Mga anong rule? Or yung business, yung sinasabi ko kanina ditong normal business rules or organizational policy. Kasi dito pa lang alam mo na yung policy ng isang salesperson, meron siyang isang car. Pwede rin naman kasi ang isang company, isang car, maraming salesperson ang gagamit. You got nakuha po ba yon yung sa cardinalities na yon? Dito, kasi ma'am, bakit po siya importante? Kasi para mas maintindihan mo yung ipapakita or yung diagram ng ERD and all other diagram or flowcharts. Yan. So, next naman tayo na technique or yung documentation techniques, yung data flow diagram. So, dito, it uses symbol to represent the processes, data sources, data flows, and entities in a system. So it represents the logical elements of the system and do not represent the physical system. So meaning, hindi po pinapakita saan napunta, anong lugar, saan prinoses. Ang pinapakita dito yung mismong data flow or yung logical elements. Paano napupunta dun yung mismong information? How is data being processed? Ano yung process? Ano yung magiging product ng process? So logical elements po siya. So these are the symbols po that you need in a data flow symbol. First, First po natin dyan is yung tinatawag natin, yung entity name na nakalagay po dyan, is yung tinatawag nating input source or output destination of data. Yung pangalawa naman po dyan yung nakalagay na in process description is the process that is triggered or supported by data. And yung nakalagay dyan na data source name is the store of data such as your transaction file, master file, reference file, and last, yung naka-arrow po dyan is the direction of data flow. Meaning, these are the symbols that you need in a data flow diagram. So, let's see kung paano yon. Ay, hindi pala pinakita dito. Okay. Ay, hindi na pinakita. Hindi ako nakapagbigay ng example. But this is the second, okay? Second documentation techniques, data flow diagram. Ito po yung symbols. Later, baka magkaroon ako dito ng example, pero parang parehas lang rin yun. Dito nga lang, data ang ang naka-focus or yung logical element ng transaction. Wait lang po Next is the data documents flowchart. Okay, documents flowchart. Ito pangatlong technique na. It illustrates the relationship among process and the documents. So kanina po, ang pinapakita dun sa data flow is yung data mismo lang, paano siya natatransfer. Dito naman, ano yung relationship ng process at saka nung mismong documents. Ano yung source documents, paano siya pinaprocess, saan siya pinaprocess, sino ang magpaprocess, nandito po siya. Okay? It contains more details than data flow diagram. And it clearly depicts the separation of function in a system. Bakit? Kasi makikita mo na agad ay iba ang nagre-record, iba ang nagre-receive, iba ang gumagawa. So, meron na agad dito. Makikita mo pa lang sa document flowcharts, ay makikita mo, ay ito pala yung department na yon. Dito ko pala siya dapat hanapin. If you are an auditor, actually, it is one of the key elements para sa pag-audit. Kasi dito pa lang, makikita mo na agad yung audit trail Saan hindi mo na initially hindi mo panid mag-walk through. Kasi pag nag-walk through ka, pwede kang malito. Ito yung magiging basis mo ng walkthrough. Sabi sa document flow chart, ito daw yung gagawin, sunod ito, dito daw siya ipaprocess, ito daw ang magpaprocess. So, ganun ang nakalagay sa flow chart. So, ngayon, pagdating mo sa walkthrough, ganun din ang gagawin mo. So, titingnan mo lang, is there any variance dun sa nangyari sa walkthrough at dun sa nakalagay dun sa flow chart. Okay? So, ito naman yung symbols for document flowcharts na mga gagamitin po. So, ito pong na yan, yung oblong na yan. Ang ibig sabihin po yan, terminal showing source or destination of documents and reports. Itong ganito naman, magkaiba po ito Ito is what we call the source document or report. This one is manual operation, meaning pwedeng encoding. Ang nakalagay dito, encoding. Manual operation ang ibig sabihin. Kunyari, transfer of raw materials, transfer, manual yun So, manual operation. So, yan. Next, file for restoring. Ito naman yung triangle. File for storing source, documents, and reports. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng end process siya ng isang proseso. Tapos, ipa-file na siya. Tapos ito naman pong, ano bang tawag dito, is what we call the accounting records. It could be your journal, register, ledgers, general ledger, subsidiary ledger, andito po yan. Ito po yung symbols nila. Pwede ang nakalagay dito, itong symbol na to, and then sa loob na journal. Next, ito naman po, yung halos kaparehas, pero invert naman, is what we call the calculated batch total. Yung circle is on-page connector. And yung last is off-page connector. Ito yung circle, ito yung umpisa. Ito naman, ito yung last. Ibig sabihin, hindi, last process na nung page na yon, hindi pa tapos, so sa next page siya. So ito yung end or off-page connector na tinatawag. And then, itong symbol na to, inawag nito ay description of process or comments. So possible kasi may flow, meron diyang arrow, tapos ito maglalagay siya ng ganito, i-describe niya lang yung mismong process. And then, itong arrow, syempre yung document flow line. So these are the symbols that you need in a document flow chart. Ano nga yung symbols na need for diagram, data flow? Ito lang, 4. Yan. Kasi ito mo na yung mismong process eh. Ito yung source documents or yung mismong input. Andito na yung kung saan mo naman siya i-store or if a file. Ito yung data flow. So, let's move. So, ito yung example. Meron tayo diyang iba-ibang department. Sales department, credit department, warehouse. Ito po ay ang pinag-uusapan po natin ay document flow chart ha. Document flow chart. Tingnan mo. From customer, yung oblong, ano nga sabi sa oblong? Terminal showing source or destination of documents and reports. So siya daw yung origin of the documents or the source document. So, meron siyang customer order. Okay? So, ito po yung source document. Customer order. So, magkakaroon ka ng manual. Itong assign na to is the preparation of sales order. So, pag pinrepare mo yung sales order, ano yung product nun? Ito yung documentation. Sales order. Mamandami, bakit ganon? Kasi pwedeng sa isang company, maraming copies, iisa lang po ang laman yan. Magkakaibang kulay. Minsan ito puti, pink, blue, green, yellow, ganon. Maraming copies. Bakit ganon? Kasi marami pong departments ang pinagpupuntahan niya. Kaya nga dito, pag nakakita kayo ng ganitong document flow chart, makikita mo yan eh. Sales order number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3 lang. Makikita mo kanino napunta yung 1, kanino yung 2, kanino yung 3. So, nandito na agad yan sa document flow chart. So, pahabain pa natin. Ganito po yung buong product from customer to customer. Anong customer? Na to? Yung isang copy ng sales order, ibibigay din sa kanya as an attachment doon sa dineliver sa kanya. Gusto niyo ba isa-isahin natin to? Para i-discuss kasi po ito dun sa revenue eh. Yan. Pero ganito po siya. Makikita niyo dyan, ito yung mga ganitong itsura is yung manual. Ganitong itsura is ang tawag dito, is the source document. Ito, ibig sabihin, if a file na, itong triangle, inverted triangle, if a file na, ibig sabihin, one of these should be filed. Yan. Tapos, mapupunta daw sa credit department. And then, yung isa, mapupunta sa warehouse para sa paggawa ng mismong product or inventory na i-deliver. And then, mapupunta sa shipping department. Yan. So, ganun po yan. This is the document flow chart. So, next natin, fourth technique natin is the system flow chart. System naman, hindi documents, hindi data. System. It is used to represent the relationship naman between key elements such as your input, programs, and output products of computer system. Paano siya napupunta doon sa system? Ano yung program at ano yung output ng system? Okay? It depicts the type of media being used, such as your paper, magnetic tape, magnetic disk, and terminal. Di ba? Very old nung mga term. Files na lang kasi yan eh. Pag sinabi yan ngayon. Pero these are used these are still used by IT people. Magnetic tape, magnetic disc, yan pa rin yung ang tawag nila sa ganyan. And in practice, not 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 much difference between document and system flowcharts. Kasi syempre sa document or flowchart, makikita mo kasi doon yung source document, saan napunta. Dito nga lang sa system flowchart, saang system mo siya inilagay? Ano yung in-input mo dun sa system? Ano yung processing na ginawa ng system? And then ano yung naging output ng system? Yun po yung sa system flowchart. So these are naman the symbols that you need in a system flowchart. So this stands for the hard copy. Sa atin, ito ang tawag dito ay source document doon. And then this rectangle is your computer process. And then this one is the direct access storage device. Pwede pong yung master file po ito. Okay, pwedeng master file, direct access storage device, master file, yung GL, yung SL, and then magnetic tape ang tawag po dito sa ganito. Okay? And then this is their terminal, meaning input or output device. So saan mo po siya i-input sa ang device ay sa ang terminal, and then ano yung device na magkakaroon ng output, and then the arrow is for the process flow. This one is real-time connection, meaning real-time pagka-click mo diretso dun sa report. Pag meron ka nakita, meaning yung process na yon is a real-time process. Okay? And this one is a video display device. So, yan po. Katulad nito, example natin yan. So, etong is the customer. Ito is yung ating sales order or yung source document mo. Ang tawag po dito, pagka sa kanya is hard copy. And then, mapupunta siya sa input natin or yung meaning input terminal natin, i-encode mo siya dun sa input terminal. It will be processed, okay? Edit, credit check, ito po yung process ng mismong computer. And then, titingnan or i-cross-refer ng mismong computer dun sa mismong file mo, credit file. And the end product of your process is the sales order. So magpo-produce ng sales order yung computer, and then i-update naman ngayon yung program. Okay? Pag meron pong ganito, nang ibig sabihin real time po yan ha. Pag may ganito, real time po. Ibig sabihin real time, magkakaroon ng updating ng order ay ng program, and then yung program mapupunta siya sa AR file para dun sa post ng mismong sales order, yung mismong in-order niya, mapunta dun sa receivable account, and then sa inventory. Ma'am, bakit related sa inventory? Kasi i-deliver po yung product sa kanya sa mismong customer. So si inventory account is affected. So same with warehousing, yan po yung itsura pag complete. Okay? So ganyan po yan. Last naman natin sa techniques of documentation is yung program flowchart. In a program flowchart, it illustrates the logic used in programs. It shows the relationship between computer programs naman. Kanina, within the system or within the program. Ngayon, sa program flowchart naman, program to program. Ito naman yung mga need mong symbols for a program flowchart. Logical process for rectangle or yung process na ginamit. Yung ganito, diamond, parang diamond is for decision. Itong oblong is for terminal start or end operation. Itong ano bang tawag dito is your input and output operation. And yung arrow is the flow of logical process. So, wala tayong example niyan. Pero ang pinaka-example nito, kunyari na lang, meron kang program for collection. Meron kang program for your sales order, pagkuha ng sales order. Meron kang program para process ng production, pag-monitor ng production, from finished goods to inventory to from raw materials to finished goods inventory. So magkakaibang program. In a program flowchart, makikita mo paano napupunta kay collection, papunta sa financial reporting, papunta sa accounts receivable kasi nakakolek ka na. So, yun po yung program flowchart. Parang ang nakikita ko, parang dun sa lahat ng documentation techniques, lahat naman yan, flowcharts. Yes, yun nga lang, magkakaiba yung dinodocument mo. Dito sa program flowchart is yung mismong program. How are your programs related to each other? Sa data flowchart, data naman. Sa documentation or yung tinatawag nating system flowchart naman, yung system from your input, processing, and output. While for for your document flowchart is yung mismong document, how is it processed, how is it transferred, how is it being recorded. So those are the documentation techniques na meron tayo. So ito naman is the comparison of your modern system versus the legacy system. Okay? Modern systems are client-server based and process transaction in real time. It uses relational database tables, have high degree of process integration and data sharing, and some are mainframe based and use batch processing. While for for legacy system, it is mainframe-based application naman. Yung isa is yung client-server-based. Ito mainframe-based. It is yung legacy is batch-oriented. Early legacy system use flat files, meaning pag sinabi nating flat files, yung hard copies pa mismo. O for data storage, ibig sabihin yung mga journal tickets mo, yung mga journal entries mo, pinagsasama-sama mo pa. Pag nire-record mo, isa-isa, pinagsasama-sama mo pa. And then, ini-store mo siya or yung nagkakaroon pa ng data storage. And it is for the latter legacy system naman, use hierarchical and network database. And also, data storage system promote a single user environment that discourage information integration. So, tingnan nyo yung pag-update ng master file sa primary keys and secondary keys. Ma'am, paano po namin masasabing primary keys siya at saka secondary keys? Primary keys kung siya po yung yung pinanggagalingan or yung pinaka-key reference. Okay? Key reference. Ma'am, ano po itong mga ito? Ito po, yung itsura ng report or record in each file. Kunyari, yung file natin is sales order transaction file. Sales order file, ito po. Ito yung itsura ng report niya or record. Yung heading niya, sales order, nandyan yung account number, yung inventory number, quantity sold, unit price, invoice price. Ang pinaka-primary keys dyan is the sales order number. Bakit? Kasi po, dyan mo mismo ititrace kung anong number nang galing itong halos lahat ng ito or yung mga naka-record dito. And yung i-record mo din sa ibang file. Kaya ang tawag sa kanya primary key. Ito is the reference number of your sales order transaction file. Next natin, isa na namang master file is yung AR master file. Ito daw kunyari yung itsura, account number, name, address, current balance, credit limit, last payment day, billing date. Ito daw yung nandun sa report mo or record ng AR mo. Dito, makikita mo that your account number is your primary key. Hindi po siya secondary. Bakit? This is the account number of your client or account number of your customer. So meaning this is the reference number of your customer. If it is AR master file, the account number is the primary key. Pero tingnan mo, ma'am, secondary key lang po siya doon sa sales order. Yes, kasi ang titingnan mo is the sales order number talaga, not kung sino yung nag-order. Titingnan mo muna yung order number. Oh, kasi kunyari ganito na ilagay natin sa logic. Kunyari ang tinatanong sa iyo ay kunyari nag-check ka ng audit trail. Hindi mo hahanapin sa sales order file yung pangalan or yung account number ng client mo. Bakit? Maraming orders yung client mo na yan. So for you to get the specific sale order, ano ang hahanapin mo? Yun ang tinatawag nating primary key. Sales order number. Pero pag ang tinitingnan mo naman ay yung AR master file, yung account number, kunyari, ang tinatanong naman yan, magkano ang utang ni Procopio? Merong Procopio 1, Procopio 2. Merong pangalan na ganun, kunyari. Ang titingnan mo ngayon is not the name. It is the account number. In that case, account number is the primary key in the record of your AR master file. So, ganun po siya tinitingnan. Ganun yung difference ng primary key and secondary key. If one file is being updated, na-update din po yung ibang records kasi nga interrelated sila. But actually, it is being consolidated in some other files. Katulad po nito. Katulad nito. Dito, iisa-isahin mo yung sales order. Sales order number 1, 2, 3, 4. Yung account number niya is si A1, si A1, si A1, si A1. Yun yung account number. Ang dami niyang sales order. Lahat ng yun, isa-summarize lang dito. Okay? Na-update po siya. Ganon din po sa inventory. Okay? Sa inventory, ang tatanungin sa'yo, ilan na lang yung takip natin? Ilan na lang yung, kunyari nagbebenta ka ng takip. Ilan na lang yung takip na color blue? Ilan yung takip na color red? Ilan yung takip na color pink? Para malaman mo, syempre nilagyan mo ng coding. Ang code ng pink ay 13. Ang code ng blue ay 14. Titingnan mo yung inventory number. So this is how we update master files on a computer-based. So ito po yung pinagkaiba ng primary keys and secondary keys. So next natin is the database backup procedure. Syempre, computer-based system tayo. These are destructive updates, leave no backup. Bakit po? Kasi ang mga destructive updates, nadidelete agad ang mga backup or minsan yung ina-archive, hindi na po siya actually hindi na ba-backup kasi nadidelete agad. Kasi nga destructive updates siya. To preserve adequate records, backup procedure must be implemented as shown below. Ito, mamaya, i-discuss natin yan. The master file being updated is copied as backup and recovery programs uses the backup, okay? And the recovery programs uses the backup to create updated version of master file. Kunyari, ganito. Ito po yung pagba-backup ng mga data. Si transaction, si sales order, nilagay mo kay program. So, na-update si program. So, mapupunta siya sa mga master file, GL, SL, inventory. So, mapupunta doon. So, yung mga napunta dito is gagawa yan. Ma'am, araw-araw po nagba-backup. Minsan, may schedule po yan. Depende sa policy ng company. So, kung kailan sila magba-backup, monthly, weekly, daily. So, yung mga nailagay mo dito sa master file na to is iba-backup mo. Okay? Iba-backup mo. Magkakaroon ng backup program. Mapupunta sa backup master. Ito, magnetic files to, yung backup mo. Kasi pwedeng yung master mo, merong hard copy. Dito, magnetic files lang to. Si magnetic files will go through recovery program. Under recovery program, yung yung backup mo, okay, yung backup master file, it will create a pre-updated version of your master file. So ito po yung tinatawag nating this is how data are being backed up sa isang database system. Paano naman pag computer-based? Ito, malapit na tayong matapos for this chapter. Computer-based accounting system. There are two classes of system, batch system and real-time system. Batch processing is a group of similar transactions that are accumulated over time and then processed together. Kunyari, loan application. Okay, loan application. Loan application number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Ngayon, paano yung sinasabing batch processing? Ma'am, isahang i-approve. Hindi ganon. Okay? Hindi ibig sabihin na ngayong oras na to, okay? Ngayong oras na to i-approve ko sila, isahan. Kung meron sa system mo na isahang approve sila, ang tawag doon, batch processing. Pero kung hindi mo sila ma-approve isahan sa system mo, ang tawag doon, real-time processing. Binabatching siya, pwedeng ang batching nun, na-approve mo si loan number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Ma'am, ano yung batch process na pwedeng gawin sa kanya? Eh di yung pag-payout, isang batch lang, automatic na, ilalagay mo sa system, magkakaroon ng advice sa bangko, o na-i-release mo na yung loan. Batch processing ang tawag doon. The transaction must be independent of one another during the time period over which the transactions are accumulated in order for batch processing to be appropriate. Kasi, if loan number 1 is related to loan number 2, hindi po pwede yun i-batch process. Kasi po, magkakaroon ng problema dun sa processing mismo. Pwedeng magkamali ang system sa pag-process. Instead kay 1 maibigay, kay 2 na ibigay. Instead na kay 2 napunta kay 1. They must be independent. Okay? A time lag exists between the event and the processing. Siyempre, ginagamitan ng computer 'yan eh. Kaya minsan nagkakaroon ng computer lags or yung mismong system lag. So, ito yung flow on how we do a batch processing or sequential file. From the sales order, ikikeying, magkakaroon ng keying or yung i-input siya sa system. So, magkakaroon ng unedited transaction. So, ibig sabihin, hindi mo pa ito na-check. Okay? Tapos, irarun sa system. Okay? And the system will catch clerical errors. It will flow to your error file. Okay? This error file will be resubmitted. Ibig sabihin, i-correct. Okay? I-correct yung errors. If the errors will be corrected, and then mag-irarun na naman siya. And then, magkakaroon ka na ng edited transaction. So, sama-sama pa rin yan. Sama-sama. From the edited transaction, the computer system will sort. Yan, isosort na. It rearranges the transaction data by key field so that it is the same time sequence as the master file. Dito yon, magkakaroon ng sorting. After the sorting of the sorting by the computer or by the system, there will be transactions. Ito na yung finished transactions na tinasabi. Or completed or transactions without errors. Ayan, ito na po yon. And it will be updated or run sa mismong system. So, system, mapupunta na po yan. Ito na yung tinatawag nating batching. Ibabatch siya, lahat ng yon mapupunta kay AR, mapupunta sa yung old master file kung meron, yung tinatawag natin katulad no sa data archiving kanina na tinatawag natin or data backup, ito yung old or dito sa new. Okay? And pwede rin magkaroon ng archive. So ito po yung batch processing. So steps in batch processing, ayan, hindi ko na to i-discuss. Ito na lang. Advantages of batch processing. Una, organization can increase efficiency. Siyempre, instead na isa-isa yung pag-approve, isahan. Anong kabilisan yun, di ba? Anong kamenusan sa gastos ng company yun? And batch processing provides control over the transaction process via control figures. As long as the system is correct, as long as the system processes correctly, and then it provides control. How about real-time processing naman or real-time system? It processes transactions individually at the moment the economic event occurs. Kunyari, isa-isang pag-collect ng resibo ng collection. Collect ng resibo, kuha ka ng collection, bigay ka ng resibo. Kuha ka ng collection, bigay ka ng resibo. Isahan. Tawag doon, real-time processing. It has no time lag between the economic event and the processing. Bakit? Kapag bigay mo ng pera, bigay ka ng resibo. Bigay ng pera, bigay ka ng resibo. Generally, it requires greater resources than batch processing since they require dedicated processing capacity, meaning your resources, your human intervention, meaning your employees, kung gaano karami ipaparas, ganun din karami. However, these cost differentials are decreasing. Bakit? Kasi habang natututo, mas umuunti gumagawa. Okay. And oftentimes, have longer system development time. Bakit? Instead na mas mabilis at isang batch lang, iisa-isahin mo. So, ngayon, ang pag-develop ng system mas matagal. Bakit? Kasi, it affects the real-time transaction of the company. Minsan, katulad sa bangko. Ang bangko, medyo importante. Okay? Importante yung mga transactions ng bangko. Ma'am, bakit? Kasi pag yan nagkaroon ng ma'am, offline po, kahit isang oras lang ma-offline ang bangko, malaki na ang effect niyan sa company. So ngayon, lalo na kung real-time system siya, real-time system ang bangko, tama? Kapag nag-input ka, nag-deposit ka, direkta na yun. Makikita mo na agad dun sa account mo. Real time yun. Ito, hindi mo yan pwede agad-agad i-develop isahan. Bakit? Maapektuhan yung mismong recording. Maapektuhan yung mismong processing. Kasi i-stop mo para ma-develop. Yun yung isa sa mga downsides ng real-time system. So these are the characteristics or distinguishment of batch and real-time. So, information time frame, resources, operational efficiency. So why do so many AIS use batch processing? AIS processing is characterized by high volume, independent transactions such as recording of cash receipts, checks received in by the mail. Ibig sabihin, more volume, much harder to process individually. So, much better kung batch processing. The processing of such high volume checks can be done during an off-peak computer time, meaning kung hindi office time, end of day reports. So, tapos na, wala na mga kliyente, pwede na tayo mag-process ng report. Pwede na tayo mag-process ng journal entry. Isahang journal entry, ang daming nangolekta ngayon. So, pero mamaya ko pa yan i-record. Iba-batch ko yan. Isang batch lang for the whole day. So, this is one of the reasons why batch processing may be done using real-time data collection. So, that ends our discussion for transaction processing, which is chapter 2 of this subject. Okay? Yan, this topic is will be helpful for your discussion in your reports sa mga susunod na chapter. Kasi Ito yung mga parang ang ano nga sa kanya, parang panghuhugutan mo. Saan ba nanggaling 'to? Ano ba yung ibig sabihin nito? Yan. So, you can explain what kind of flowcharts na gagamitin ninyo? Anong klaseng file documentation or computer documentation ang gagamitin ninyo? So, that is chapter 2. Do you have any questions? Guys? Meron po bang tanong? Anyone? Wala namang tanong? Okay. So, kung walang tanong, stop ko muna yung recording.